So now we have to look at the market that we're in. Do we want a looter mentality or do we want a producer mentality? And so it depends on the market. And things come in polarities. People like to polarize things. There's yin and yang, there's male and female, there's up and down. So let's take a look at different ways that the market is polarized. So let's look at mass market versus niche market. If you want to make a lot of money, if you want to come here, if you want to be friends with these people, all of us, you have to be involved in a mass market. That's the way you generate growth. You have to create a winning formula. You have to create something that scales, something that you can replicate millions and millions of times among people who think in a very, very similar way or can be created to think in a similar way. And a good example is pop music and TV. It's really about getting people to all like the same thing so you can make lots of money. And sometimes you're lucky. Sometimes you could appear to be a niche player but actually not be a niche player. And this is a great marketing strategy. Beer companies are really great at this. So when microbreweries came along, a lot of the major beer companies started creating their own microbrewery brands. It was basically the same formula. I remember my grandfather taught me my first marketing lesson. He had a store in the Great Depression. He said, I had regular beans and the premium beans. $1.99 for the regular, $2.99 for the premium. Guess what? They were the same beans. Great marketing lesson. Very, very important. And so really, the person that you choose, if you're going to create a mass market, you generally want to go with looters because their job is to replicate behavior. You don't want somebody who has passion, who really belongs in a niche market, in a small company trying to find its niche, running a mass market organization. It's important not to be in denial about that. Another example would be small versus large companies. And if you look here at our diagram, if you're a small company and you're in the bottom left, you're going to fail. If you're a small company and you're trying to act like a big company, you're going to fail. We've seen that with the .com where we brought in a lot of consultants and CEOs into small companies. We all remember that one. Very smart people, but they didn't understand the DNA of the environment they were in. You have to be smart. You have to find that beachhead property, that key strategy that gets you into your key customers. Clever people have to be in there. If you're a large company, you have a choice. You don't have to be smart. It's actually easier not to be smart. It's natural for people to, looting is natural. People to compete with each other, to go after the customers, to replicate behavior is very, very natural. But if you're a large company and you're not acting smart, eventually you're going to get eroded. And so if you can, it makes sense to try to be as smart as you can or have an organization or a portion of the company that's mainly producers because you generally don't want to combine looters and producers together. And so something to keep in mind when you're really trying to plan who you put in there is that success in business is not about the better product. We'd like to believe it is, and most young people do believe it is, but it's really about distribution, branding, control of the customer, partnerships, standards, things like that. And so it's really important that you don't put somebody of passion who's driven by this love of the product in there. So you got to be very careful with your personnel choice. And then the final environment I want to look at is perceptual versus real products. And this is really important because there's a great amount of opportunity here. It's very important to understand this key distinction. Let's say that your ability to measure quality between two different products is high, and the stakes are very high. Like, for example, in airplanes and cars, you've got to be real careful to put people that are very competent in there that really produce value. If your ability to measure quality is very low and the stakes are low, like, for example, perfume and clothes and entertainment, it really doesn't matter who you put in there. As a matter of fact, you want a diversity of people. You want a combination of different personalities. You could put a looter in charge of selling perfume. You could put a looter in charge of selling clothes or bubblegum music, but not airplanes, not aircraft. So those are pretty clear. But there's a tremendous opportunity in some markets where the stakes are very high. There's a lot of money being spent. But the interesting point is that your ability to distinguish quality is very, very low, almost non-existent. And a good example would be environmental technologies and security. The idea there is that it's very difficult to know whether or not something's working or not. You measure your success on how much money you spend or how sexy the technology is. Another example would be charitable donations. You measure your success on how much money you spent. You don't know how the money's being used. And of course, the Gates Foundation is changing this, but still the behavior is still very much that way. Another example would be education. And of course, the biggest one of all, which is government. So there's a tremendous opportunity here because you can put looters in these organizations and you can sell perception. And it really comes down to the requirement to do that because everybody else is doing that. And so, tremendous opportunity here.